Welcome. My name is Zen, aka Zenmus, member of Team Kai. How are you wonderful people doing today? I am here with RP Graham, aka Richard, or Gamer Menace. You check out his YouTube channel. All those links will be down below. But how are you, Mr. Gamer Menace?
I'm doing well. Just end of the day, pretty good.
That's good.
How about yourself?
I am doing wonderful. I'm doing pretty good. I wanted to have you on. Mainly, I just want to talk to you about your process in terms of, I've checked out your webtoon on the actual webtoon app, which is awesome to see you guys, working on your comic and whatnot. But I wanted to get, just kind of delve into the mind of you as an artist and trying to make content. What's the process normally when you're trying to develop a story? What do you think about first?
You said when it comes to the webtoon, or
In terms of let's not do anyone in particular. Let's just say when you're trying to build your story, what's something as a foundational part or portion of your story? What do you want to convey first as an author or as an artist?
mostly the characters. Try to make it where people to understand or connect with the characters. It's even if you got a story in general, if you don't got good characters, it all fall apart. Because the characters is what makes the story and keep it going.
Okay. So, and for a lot of the time, when it comes to, at least I'll go based off my own personal experience, when it comes to either deciding on what my OC or my original character might be, or when it comes to certain individuals that I like that I prefer more in stories, is definitely a dynamic or a constantly changing character, one that feels alive and breathing, one that is in a constant state of flux, so to speak. So let's go with the opposite. Are there any character designs or characters in your mind that you have already made or plan on, developing, that are characters that do not change? Because there are those characters that are basically even keel and steady in terms of the only thing that really changes is maybe they get stronger. But a character like, let's say Monkey D. Luffy or Goku from Dragon Ball, those characters they have been the same throughout their entire series and their entire run. The only thing that's really changed about them is that they've gotten stronger over time. Are there any, is that a character archetype that you like, or are you more of the dynamic change?
I do lean more to a change because I do try to put the character in a low base function in the beginning, then what I have planned for them, because I don't think no, just in real life, no person just stays in that particular factor. They're their whole thing, they change and grow and bounce off things and learn from their hardship and stuff and try to be a better person. And even with my when I think about villains, it's almost the same thing too, because other people they stay stagnant with their villains, but I don't like particularly doing it with bad guys. I think up and right. Usually they try to they get better over time. Also, even if they're the most scariest character to everyone else, if they're getting beat sometimes or whatever by the main character and their friends and stuff, I might try to make it where they're a little bit better the next time and stuff. It ain't like a whole repetition thing that happens over and over.
Okay. There's just some examples that I think of when it comes to just character design that I am a fan of, and also I don't like. One in particular that I'm kind of on the fence about, if you don't mind me kind of rambling, is the villains in My Hero Academia. They, for some reason, I see a lot of the time where people believe that these individuals that are in that show are very dynamic. They have motivations that speak to their characters. But for me, the characters just kind of fell flat and are a little shallow and mainly just crazy. And you can have characters like that. Like let's not get. Let me not be saying that they're just bad characters in general. They're just not characters that I enjoy like as a whole. But one character that is just legitimately just crazy and literally is just like the antithesis of the entire like the plot and the driving force of the plot would be Fire Lord Ozai. In the entirety of Avatar: The Last Airbender, we barely got to interact and nor meet this individual. He was always in the background. He was always looming. He was always that like the Demon King vibe in terms of like the hero fighting the Demon King, but we never get to meet the Demon King until you go to his castle in a sense. So characters like him, and then his main motivation was that just he was a warmonger and he wanted to be the most powerful of them all. For the story, it didn't necessarily need him to have some grand philosophical goal other than him just wanting to be the ruler of the world. And I feel like some stories they muddle the water too much when it comes to they're trying to like they have a point they want to make and they try to get way too philosophical, so they kind of lose me. And again, I'm just making this more towards just myself as an individual. I'm not saying that I just let everybody know. I'm not saying that if you enjoy a story that your story is just awful because it doesn't have this and this point. This is just my personal preference and view. But yeah, I just feel like if you're going to go in a philosophical way in terms of a story, you need to have, at least personally, a focus on at least one of them, at least one aspect of them, because if you continuously bounce from one to one and from this one to this one to this one to this one, they make for great conversations. They really do. But for me, at least, the plot kind of gets lost in all of it because it's very confusing, and at times sometimes when you really break it down, the character's motivation, it's kind of like, is that really what you decided to do? Like you're just crazy, and I lose interest in your character. You're no longer intriguing because you have somewhat of a moral compass, but you decided to go about it in a way that seems justifiable but isn't. That's just my personal preference. But back to the go ahead.
Just to speak a little bit on what you just said, I totally get what you mean. Fire Lord Ozai was like bland and plain. He didn't have nothing to him, the brain of the story, and it's like they fumbled the ball on him and his daughter, because it was like, oh, his daughter is just crazy for no reason, even though they try to say like she like that because of her dad like approval. They try to have his approval, but when you think about it, like unlike Zuko. If I might be saying his name wrong,
Zuko.
because Zuko.
You'll get destroyed in the comments if you say it like that.
Sorry about that. It's been a while. So, but like, unlike her brother, she really didn't. When you think about it, she really didn't need the approval of her dad. So, other than that, I really don't get why they just plain out made her like psychotic and stuff like that, or. Like they didn't even give like a real good reason to say that why she didn't like her brother and stuff like that.
Well,
I get that like he was closer to the mom than them, but I'm just saying like the length they went with the craziness though.
But at least just from what I remember of the show, because it has been a little while, it was more to show the duality between Zuko and Azula. Azula all her life strove for perfection, and her cruelty was always rewarded by her father. Her father always rewarded her cruelty and her to demonstrate her power. So it's just it was to show that they both grew up in the same household, but they both turned out completely different. And Azula, her psyche break was more of everything was always there. Like everything was always at her fingertips, like in terms of commanding officers or just being very proficient as a bender, and being like, literally every time she had a chance to prove herself, or every time she was supposed to be to accomplish something, she got it done, and she was praised by her father. And for her, and then just a little doubt creeped in. You threw a rock at a glass house, basically, because she never had a great foundation. Everything between her and her father was not actual love. It was more of a transactional, you do this for me and you will get praise and you'll get benefits. That's it. So for her to see her friends, at least the individuals that she thought were her friends, betray her because they were more just, they didn't fear her as an individual. They feared like what would come to the people that they cared about if they let her continue to do what she was doing. And then she felt like she never got her mother's approval because her mother always wanted her to be a little bit more docile, to be more understanding and more compassionate. But her mother kind of did just give up on Azul. Like we got to see that. And sorry everyone, this has kind of turned into we're talking about Avatar: Last Airbender. I'm very passionate about that show, but
you know what, it's a good thing because with the show coming out on Netflix, this is a good like thing that people can probably use.
Please go check it out.
Understanding.
Please go check out the show. That's it. I don't even care if you don't watch live action. I'm going to watch it, and we will definitely have a discussion about the live action then. But please, if you haven't watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, it is a really good watch. Not the movie. I'm talking about the actual animated show, the one shot on Nickelodeon. You may think it's just a kids cartoon, but it is very deep. And it's very good. It's something that stuck with me pretty much all of my childhood and my adult life. So, it's awesome. But yeah. So, and to go back to the Ozai, and I'm basically using that as a case study in terms of like character design and whatnot. Sorry. But Ozai being basically a bland kind of just your typical villain type character. It was more to do with everything else happening around him. It wasn't him in particular. He was the driving force, as like he was that enigma, but it was the story and the journey of Aang and his friends and dealing with the world around them. That's why I felt like Ozai himself didn't need to be that complex character, because we were already introduced to so many complexities in all of our characters. We didn't need to have it be topped off with another character, because Aang was already going through a moral dilemma. He didn't want to have to kill anyone. He didn't want to have to go about it in a certain way. But Ozai decided, but Ozai was like, no, you're too weak, so yada yada yada. If we had Ozai be an individual that had some type of other philosophy and wasn't just the pure bad guy, then it kind of, the Aang's whole moral dilemma and all that kind of falls on deaf ears at that point, because it's kind of like, well, now we have to debate about whether or not he was right for doing what he was doing, and it become more of a mess than it needed to be. So for it to be as clean as it was, that is what that was my point. Like, it just having a focal point on your main character, your main protagonist, and then it more or less on the people around him and how they affect each other, and then just having them fight that said quote unquote bad guy. You don't need that bad guy in this particular case to be this morally ambiguous individual. You didn't need that. And I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. You have there's some One Piece villains that are that exact same way, but then there's a few of them that are those morally gray ones, and you can explore that. But because One Piece is such a long running show, and Oda has legitimately built the world in that of itself is so massive and has so many moving parts, and there's so many callbacks, that I feel the foundation has been built there for you to take a little bit more time to actually talk about the different philosophies between characters.
Good question. Do you feel like Frieza might have been like an Ozai, or he's built?
Yes, Frieza in my mind is another Ozai in a sense, because Frieza, there was never a question of whether or not he was morally gray, because Frieza, his entire race, or at least his father that we know of and his brother, they were just there to enslave other races to make them do what they want. Frieza was a warmonger. Like they attack. He had the sayings, attack planets and cause wars, just because I guess they wanted their resources. We never really got an answer behind any of that, or at least I haven't dug deep enough.
or more like info and stuff, or glances at his
Mhm.
race at that.
Yeah.
Just you know, I feel like Frieza and his race is just like characters drawn and be like, yeah, that's a species in this world, but let's not really dive into it.
Because there was no real point. There wasn't, at least from, I guess, from a writing standpoint, because you were so focused on, well, at least at the time, everyone was so focused on Goku's transformation, of the Namekians, the Saiyans as a whole. I mean, to be completely honest, I would 100% am behind us, or at least Toei and all, and Akira Toriyama, to go and check out Universe 6 and their Saiyans. Like, they have an entire planet of Saiyans that have evolved to the point where they no longer need tails, and now they also have the Super Saiyan transformation as a race that Kabo has been teaching people. I would really, really, really like, Toriyama, if you were listening to this, please, I need to know how. I'm pretty sure there's some fan made stuff that I could probably find on the internet, but that seems like such a awesome thing to look at and explore. Just, it's so cool. But yeah, Frieza definitely is like another Ozai, where he's just kind of the bad guy because he's just. And I'm perfectly fine with that. Frieza is definitely one of the most memorable, one of my favorite villains in the multiverse of anime. But he's not the morally gray one. He's like the just pure villain kind of anime character.
You know what Ozai and Frieza make me think of is like they like the top hit bad guy backup. Like you got all the other bad guys, and you got like Frieza and Ozai for like if you like need to stretch the story out a little bit longer, because like Ginyu get out the way and stuff like that, and then like, oh well, we still got Frieza and something like that.
Yeah.
If you look at like Ozai or like Avatar, like the really big villain was his daughter more than him.
Yeah, because I mean, she's
Me
the one.
anyway,
She was the one we got to be introduced to way earlier. We got to see her way more often. And hell, there were a few. I mean, the episode that really opened up Azula's character for me, because I enjoyed Azula. Like, I enjoy a good bad guy, even if they're just kind of just that villain. I enjoy a good bad guy for a story. My eyes got opened up to her a little bit more whenever it was. I cannot remember the name of the actual episode itself, but remember it was like Zuko,
when they went to the beach.
They went to the beach. They went to the beach, and they were, like, that put me in the mind of children that have never known peace, don't know what to do with it when they have it,
Yeah.
and children that have never known war have no understanding of war. Like, they don't think about it. Or no, it was another one. There was another one. So people in heaven have no reason to think about people in hell, but people in hell, all they can think about are people in heaven, because that's the best way, or at least in their mind, that's the only way to even remotely survive being in hell, is to think about what you could have, or at least think about trying to get out of there, in a sense. But because remember how they interacted with those kids, like those kids were a part of the Fire Nation, but their families were like, they were well off. They didn't have to scrounge around. They didn't have to worry about. They're having a party, talk about their parents on a business trip, and yada yada yada. But then we remember the Zuko Alone episode, where Zuko went to the Earth Kingdom village, and he got to see, like, they were in poverty, like they were barely surviving. And then it was so bad to the point to where the Earth Kingdom military, the actual Earthbender militaries that were there protecting them, were extorting the people that already had nothing. So Zuko got to see how the war was affecting the rest of the world. But because the Fire Nation as a whole, and this would be applied to real everyday life, they built a bubble, or a little bit of a microcosm around themselves, to where the people inside, because they're well off, because they have what they need, they got clothes on their back, roof over their head, and food in their stomach, there's no logical reason, other than building up as a society, for them to even think about anybody else suffering. As long as they're not suffering, most people don't think about it.
It's like the higher you are on the mountain, it's harder to like see down.
Yeah, everything seems smaller from up high. everything seems less of a worry from up high because you're so far removed from it. Why go out of your way to go dive down and be a part of those problems and those worries. And that's just another mark of a good story, especially when one where the message and the images and whatnot stick with just anybody for so long, because that in that of itself, After All, that's Airbender could be used as a case study for a lot of just how story structures are or just society as a whole, like what war can do to a society and a community and whatnot. I mean, hell, remember when let's get a little political, when the World War III, quote unquote, was like supposedly about to happen between our individual that was in office at the time and another individual that is a part of a different country. They were at each other's throats. There were just nothing but memes on the internet. Like all I could see were nothing but memes, people just making joke and making fun of the situation, even on different TV hosts and whatnot. But that just goes to show you, war is not something that I will ever want to experience. I don't want to put that on anybody. I never want anybody to have to experience that. And there are still wars happening now. There's small skirmishes. People are dying. And that's stuff that I think about mainly because I have the luxury to think about it. I don't have to actively be doing anything, or I feel like I don't have that big of a part to play in it because I'm where I am. I am not in the middle of it all. I'm over here. So, we can have this conversation, but for those people that are actually having to deal with that, if they were to ever look on social media, they would just think the world just think they're a joke. They think the world thinks the problems that they go through is a joke because that's what is portrayed online. People have that facade. And again, we're to step away from politics. That was kind of just like, bringing a point in.
No problem.
Yeah, just bringing a point in. But I have rambled on enough. I thank you, Gamer Menace, for hanging out with me. We're going to go ahead and call it for right now. If you guys want to see more from us, let us know down in the comment section below. If you have any other topics, let us know as well. This is more of just talking about writing and whatnot, building up characters, yada yada, our villains, heroes, things of that nature. We will have a more in-depth talk next time. I think if we can do this tomorrow as well, if you want to hop into a call.
Yeah, sure. Also, I would like to say anyone that come across this, and if you would leave down in the comments or whatever and say like what game that came out during the Game Awards that you give a thumbs up or thumbs down to.
All right. Thank you very much. You guys live by the code, and until next time. Peace.
Peace.
Team Hakka. Live by the code.